If you're designing a course in Storyline 360 and you have a set of related questions with categorical answers, like true-false statements, you might want to place the whole set on one slide. Storyline doesn't have a template for this. If you insert a multiple-choice quiz slide, it will only place one question on the slide. But we can use radio buttons and triggers to make a custom slide with as many questions as we need. First, make sure the questions or statements are aligned and spaced evenly. Add category headers. Add a radio button for the first statement. Make the outline around the button as small as possible so it can't be selected by accident. You might want to remove the default hover state from the button. Duplicate this button by selecting it and clicking Ctrl-D. Align both buttons vertically with the first statement and horizontally with the category headers. Copy these buttons and paste them into each row. Select the buttons in the first row, right-click on the highlight border, and hover over buttons set in the menu. Select button Set 1 if it isn't already selected. This tells Storyline that only one button in this row can be selected at a time. Select the buttons in the second row, right-click on the highlight border, and hover over buttons set in the menu. Select New Set. Name this button Set 2. Repeat this for all the remaining rows. Give each button set a unique name. It's important to give each button a logical name so it will be easy to define correct responses when we create the submit trigger. Use names that identify the question and option number. For example, the first button could be Statement 1 True, and the other buttons could follow the same pattern. Next, insert a Submit button. Type the text Submit in the button and name it Submit in the timeline. Create a new layer that will appear when the user gives a correct response. Insert a rectangle in this layer that covers the Submit button on the base layer. Set the rectangle's color to match the background. Insert a feedback message for a correct answer. Copy the correct layer and use it to create a layer that will appear when the user gives an incorrect response. Edit the feedback message so it responds to an incorrect answer. Now, we can create a trigger that identifies correct and incorrect responses. In our example, Statement 1 is false, Statement 2 is true, and Statement 3 is true. With the Submit button selected, create a new trigger. This trigger should show the correct layer when the user clicks Submit if all of the radio buttons corresponding to the correct answers are in the selected state. Make sure the conditional statements in the trigger are linked by the word "and." Duplicate this trigger. Change the copy to show the incorrect layer when the user clicks Submit if any of the radio buttons corresponding to the correct answers are not in the selected state. Make sure the conditional statements in this trigger are linked by the word "or." Let's try it. The correct answers in this example are false, true, true. A correct response opens the correct layer. An incorrect response opens the incorrect layer. If you want to offer 2 attempts to answer, there are a few more steps to take. First, copy one of the feedback layers and name it Try Again. Change the feedback message to prompt the user to try again. Insert a button labeled Try Again. Name it Try Again in the timeline. Make sure it has a visited state. Add a trigger to this button that closes this layer. The Submit button must be reset for the second attempt. Add another trigger to the Try Again button that changes the state of the Submit button back to normal. Go back to the base layer. Change the incorrect response trigger so it opens the Try Again layer instead of the incorrect layer. Go back to the Try Again layer. Add a trigger that opens the incorrect layer immediately if the Try Again button is in the visited state. This way, if the user gives an incorrect response, it will first open the Try Again layer. If they haven't seen this layer yet, it will stay visible until they click the Try Again button. But if they have already seen it, the Try Again button will be in the visited state, and this trigger will make the incorrect layer appear. Let's see what happens when we give an incorrect response twice in a row. The first incorrect response opens the Try Again layer. The second incorrect response opens the final incorrect layer.